And I know that Goggins, who comes up so many times in these situations, I think Goggins said something like, when you get to the point where you feel you can't do anything more, you're at like 40% of your capacity or something, right? When you're studying, push yourself a little past uncomfortable and then take a break. Then continue to do this over and over again. This is how you build up mental stamina. Now, I'm going to try and remember the word. I don't think that was it, Jack. The word that describes the pain in your brain when you feel like you're all maxed out in terms of learning. Was it de-stress? Was it de-stress?
Yeah. And it was like, de-stress is like when you're just so overwhelmed that you're just like, you're dead, basically.
Yeah.
Eustress is when
Eustress.
That's the good one, though. The good one.
Eustress
is when you just feel that that bit of uncomfort, and then you push past it and grow. De-stress is like you've gone too far.
Right. Okay. The eustress.
You're like way dead.
Eustress was the word that I was looking for. There you go. So this, for anyone wondering why I was agonizing over that, this came up in the book club, I don't know, maybe like 2 years ago or something. Ages ago. I remember we were talking about it in the, I remember specifically the example we were using was GTODB. May it rest in peace. That absolute beauty of a program. Of effectively working to the point of pain. And this is like, the most natural example of this is obviously when you see the huge tanks in the gym and they're literally screaming and writhing in pain as they push out that final rep, and you have to break through that pain barrier. And when you're studying, it's very easy when you're studying to get to the point when you're like, okay, I could really, I feel like I've done enough and I'm a little bit weary, so I'm just gonna call it here. And that really inhibits growth, because I think we get to that point a long time before we actually have reached our physical limit or even our mental limit. And I know that Goggins, who comes up so many times in these situations, I think Goggins said something like, when you get to the point where you feel you can't do anything more, you're at like 40% of your capacity or something, right? And he did that run. I remember he did a run for like 24 hours and his feet were broken. He was pissing blood and he still continued to run. And the point that he's making there is that your limit is not at all what your limit is. What feels like your limit is usually the start of your limit. You're just starting to break the comfort zone and getting to the point where you're actually learning something. And taking all that advice from a couple of years ago was really important to me. And what I did, if anyone watches the old GTO gym videos where I had the first Insta, I would say like, this hand is doing this, and I'd be like, I can't understand why. And I'd stare at the screen for a couple of minutes and be like, right, I'm just going to pause the video while I work this out. And then I come straight back on the video. But in real life, sometimes I spent as long as 15 or 20 minutes staring at that one hand and the board and the other person's range, desperately trying to work out, why the fuck does this hand want to play this way? Because it felt so counterintuitive. And my brain would be aching and I'd be all out of ideas. And I worked so hard on those situations to finally understand it. And when I finally did, it broke this pattern for all these other spots. I was like, so that's why I want to do it. And then it will want to do it here, here, and here. The point I'm making is you really have to be committed when you're learning. And when you get to the point of something that you don't understand, you've got to really push yourself through that place effectively. Yeah, I mean, Jack, you can elaborate on this, but
I do want to elaborate. Like, I agree with what you're saying, but I do want to add a certain something here. Mm-hmm. So this point, like the main thing that I was trying to write when I wrote this note is that, like when you're studying, usually you get to a point, like you'll feel it in your brain. Your brain is just tired. You're just like, oof, it's time to take a break, right?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, do not go like 1 hour past that point, because now you're just killing yourself. You're going to build like a negative association towards studying. It's not going to feel good. But challenge yourself to go 2 minutes past that point, 5 minutes past that point, just a little bit. Just push a little bit so you grow a little bit. Don't go so far to where you're going to experience de-stress, and you're literally studying and you're like pulling your hair, like, oh my god, this is fucking hell because my brain is fried. But as soon as you feel that, like you'll feel it when you're studying a certain point. You'll feel something where you're just like, oof, all right, like I've had enough. I kind of want to do something else. At that point, when you usually get up and you go do something else, stop. Like, okay, I'm gonna go 5 more minutes now. And just push past the discomfort a little bit. Don't go insane and go to the sky with it, but just push past a little bit, and then continue doing that day after day. Like it's like, for example, like when you're lifting weights, when you're at your last rep, you're like, you push a little bit, and then at the end, when you can't do any more reps anymore, don't try to do reps when you can't do anymore. You're just dead. Right, your arms can't even lift the weights anymore. You're going to drop the dumbbells on your face. Don't push past that much. We're telling you to just go push a little bit more each time you study past your level of comfort.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the next one here.
Let's go to the next one. So the next one is push yourself past. Oh yeah, just quickly on that, Jack. There was one thing I wanted to add.
Yeah, sure.
When we talk about that. Always worth remembering to everyone, when you're pushing past those points, you're not trying to make like 10% improvements over the course of a week or anything. Always remember the marginal gains. All right, the 1% rule. You're just trying to get 1% better. All the time you're doing this, just 1%, 1%, 1%, and watch it accrue over a long period of time. All right. The next one was study so much that the information is internalized and could be implemented intuitively. Again, you can very briefly say, study so much so that it becomes your unconscious competence, so that it becomes natural to you. So I'm sure everyone, I won't bore them with the 4 stages of learning, the Jared Taylor 4 stages, but that's pretty much it. So it's often the case with GTO stuff, you learn something new, and then you have to think about it in game. You're like, oh, hang on a minute, the solver, I remember seeing this in the solver, and what it wanted to do was this, and then you have to take the time to think about it, and then you implement it into your game. You want to study so much that it becomes second nature, and that does happen. For me, I find it happens often with like bluff barrels, where I just know already from the flop, just looking at the flop, I know I'm going to double barrel almost every single time here, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, right, it's a dry, static, unconnected board. I'm going to bet I'm going to bet the min, and then I'm going to bet 1.5 times pot on the turn. But I don't even think like that in my head. I just automatically know. I'm like, I know what's going to happen next. And it becomes internalized, like you've written there. Yeah, I don't know.
Natural, the word, you said it all with the natural. Like it comes natural. Like it's so natural to you that you don't have to think about it. Like, for example,
driving a car. Always the example.
Driving a car is a good example too. Like the one I had in mind is, let's say like you meet a friend, right?
Yeah.
Naturally, when you meet a friend, like you've met so many friends in your life that you've just randomly came across, that your first thing is like, hey, how's it going? Like, what's going on? Like you just naturally say that. But if you're not so natural, right? Like if you're still like at the point where you haven't done that much, or you haven't done that much studying, you're gonna think to yourself when you see your friend, you're like, okay, I should say hi now, and then like it wastes time, and you're like, oh hey, how's it going? Like it's just a waste of time, and you're just not sure. It's not natural anymore.
Yeah.
Right. It's not natural. It doesn't come to you intuitively because you haven't put in enough hours. It's really as simple as that. You haven't put in enough hours. You don't have enough experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not natural. So you want to study so much that like you can instantly look at a spot, and within 2 or 3 seconds, you can kind of have like a visualization of the range and what you want to do there. Like, should I bluff? Should I not bluff? Like, it comes quickly to you. You don't have to like spend like 35 seconds like thinking about the spot. It's very intuitive, right? So this is a very simple one. Just spend tons of hours studying, like as much as you can. But don't overwhelm yourself either. So there's like a weird kind of line there. Like I would recommend, like if you're having trouble with this part about it, of like what's too much studying or what's too little studying, or how can I do this without feeling so overwhelmed, I would say go watch my YouTube video. I forgot the title of it, but I'll just give you the gist of it here. It basically just says start small, like as small as you can. 5 minutes per day, even 10 minutes per day. Build the habit. Do enough so that you're just not super overwhelmed and like dreading it. You never want to get to a point where you're dreading studying ever. So if you're ever at a point where you're dreading it, where you're just like, oh, I really don't feel like studying, cut down your study hours. Just do like 5 minutes per day. Okay? Start with 5 minutes per day, and then push to like 10 minutes per day, then push to like 15, 20, maybe 30 at some point, maybe some months down the line. Maybe you want to push to an hour, but never to a point where you're going to wake up in the morning and be like, oh God, I got to study for 45 minutes today, or oh God, I got to go to the gym for 1 hour today. If you're ever doing that, step back and go to the gym for 10 minutes. Study for 10 minutes. Don't completely overwhelm yourself to where you build like this negative association towards studying, and now you just don't want to do it anymore because every time you do it, you just feel terrible. So start small, but do it every single day. I don't care if you want to start at 2 minutes per day. Start at 2 minutes per day, but do it every single day.